Welcome. Alex, Retro Superbikes here. And what a retro superbike we have here. My 2000 Honda VTR1000 SP1. Now, let's talk about the SP1 and talk about why it's such an iconic piece of machinery and something that just seems to gel with a lot of people's hearts. So, end of the 90s, we all know Carl Foggy and we all know Ducati's dominance in World Superbike on the 916, 996. What it was, in case you don't know, World Superbike had a rule: if you had 2 cylinders, your maximum capacity you can have is 1000cc. If you have 4 cylinders, like the Honda RC30 and the RC45, the Kawasaki ZX7R, the GSX-R 750, you were restricted to 750cc. So 4 cylinders, 750, V-twin or twin, 1000cc. And it was kind of a bit of a seen as an unfair advantage by some of the Japanese World Superbike teams, that Ducati, with their big old V-twin 1000cc, were dominating majority of the time, not all the time, but the majority of the time, against the Japanese 4-cylinder 750cc's. So Honda said, let's play them at their own game. And they went to HRC. These are HRC, Honda Racing, basically, built bikes. And they said, build a V-twin to take on Ducati. And that's exactly what they did. This livery, the Castrol livery of the year 2000, was the first year that the SP1 was launched in World Superbikes, with Mr. Colin Edwards on it. And Aaron Slight, I believe. Could be wrong. And it won in the year 2000. Later on in World Superbikes, Honda would come up with the SP2 for 2002, and Colin Edwards would win the World Superbikes again on the SP2. But I think quite a few people hold it very dear in their hearts, because in the year 2000, Joey Dunlop, at the age of 48, came into the Isle of Man TT on an SP1, borrowed an engine, I think it was Aaron Slight's World Superbike engine, and won. Completely written off. He's too old for this. He's never going to win it. And he smashed it. Unfortunately, Joey was killed just a couple of weeks later in a little race out in Estonia. And the funeral was massive. If you know anything of the history of the Dunlops and of the TT, you'll know they're all legends. And that's what makes this bike such a legendary bit of kit, really, and something that people affiliate to and have a love for because of their love of Joey Dunlop, because of their love of Honda, and because the way Honda took the game to Ducati and beat them at their own game. It makes the VTR1000 SP1, or if you're in America, the RC51, such a special bike in a lot of people's hearts. So let's talk about me in this SP1. Well, we've not had the greatest of relationships, to say the least. I bought it 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, as a non-runner. I'd wanted one for a while. After doing the Fireblade meet, I met up with a friend and become friendly with a guy called Owen, who owned an SP1, still does. And I talked about my love for SP1s and how I dreamed of getting one, and I've got to try and get one. And he said, I've got one, and I barely use it. Do you fancy borrowing it? Yes, I do. So I went up to the Midlands to meet Owen, to his house, dropped off the blade, brought his lovely SP1 back home with me, and it ended up being, I had it for 3 weeks and just loved it. The thing was just amazing.
What's that? You want to go round the roundabout again?
First thing to address with these bikes is, don't think you're getting on board an S1000 RR or even a Fireblade of today's era. They're big chunky bikes, they're relatively underpowered, but you can't measure the fun that they are. You can't measure that feeling of the torque hitting as you come out of a corner and you're just flying up the road, feeling like you're Joey, feeling like you're Colin Edwards. It's what makes these bikes so special. So as I say, I bought this 3 years ago now as a non-runner. Not to go into too much detail, I was told it's the alarm by the previous owner, so I ripped the alarm off. No, still wouldn't start. And I thought, I can't hear the fuel pump priming. So I looked at the Fireblade, and I looked at the SP1, and I looked at the tank fittings. They're exactly the same. Both fuel injected bikes. So I took the tank off the blade, whacked it on the SP1, started first time. That was the beginning of all the troubles, I think. So I got the bike up and running. Would have been end of 2022, and quickly went out and started enjoying it. And in April of 2023, Easter Sunday, a car pulled out on me. Didn't see me, didn't hear me. Luckily, I was just poodling along. Over the front end, so I hit the brake so hard to try and stop and prevent myself hitting the car. Didn't work. Bike still hit the car. I didn't. I flew over, landed on my arse. Managed to get the bike home through someone very kindly chucking it in the back of their van. And just 2 weeks later, I'd already organised a RC meet at Donington for all RC owners. Now people get the ump when I say these are an RC bike. If you don't know, Honda's RC, RC30, RC45, you know, legendary bikes, and of course the RC40, which is the Honda NR. As a marketing ploy, these were called the RC51 in the States, but for anyone who knows, RC is the chassis number of a 750. 2 weeks later, at the big meet at Donington, I had to source some parts. I'd smashed up the aero cans, I'd smashed the left foot peg hanger, done some damage to the bodywork, but I could put it back together. Insurance wrote it off, I bought it back, put all the bits on, and rode it all the way to Donington. And then we had the RC day and 2 Honda NRs and all the RC30s and RC45s and NC30s. Followed us round for a parade lap of Donington. before the British superbikes. John McGuinness come over and sat on pretty much everyone's bikes, took a great interest in the NRs. Honda UK come over and had some photos done, absolutely loved it, and Honda UK then said, oh, we'll do some photos of the parade lap, and took a whole bunch of photos of the day. So anyway, since that day I've not really done much to the SP1. I've kept it on the road, put a new rear tyre on it. I haven't even bothered MOTing it this year, and I haven't really ridden it, I think, since about May or June, because I don't want to put any miles on it until I get it to the way I want it. Now, anyone who's watched my videos or knows me and has spoken to me over the years knows I'm an absolute nightmare when it comes to making my mind up of what colour this is going to go back to. So many people say to me, it's got to go back to Castrol, Alex. You've got to have it back in Castrol. I don't know. I've done Castrol. And, you know, you don't see many around. But it isn't the only Castrol SP1 on the road. There was one at the second RC day I run at Sammy Miller's last year. Absolutely lovely. But I want it something personal to me, something that's different. I'm not sure. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to strip it right down. Part of the damage on it is it took a dink in the swing arm. So I've managed to source a new swing arm. I wanted an SP2 swing arm, but you're talking £1,500 at the moment. What we're now, December 2025. I guarantee if you're watching this in a year or two's time, they're much more than £1,500. They are absolute nightmares to try and get hold of. But anyway, managed to source another SP1 swing arm without a dent in it, which I've got sat in a box over there. I've got care of EBC brakes. Gave me a lovely big discount on some front brake discs. I've got a nice new carbon hugger for it, for the rear, so I don't particularly like the one that's on it at the moment. I've got a new screen. I've got lots of little bits and bobs to go on it. And one of the things after the crash, weirdly, straight away, the tank started leaking. And if you know SP1s, you can undo the front two bolts and they pivot up. And they're known, the SP1 tanks, for leaking at that pivot on the welds. So I managed to source an SP2 tank, which is bare metal, and the rear seat unit on my original rear seat unit, although it's signed by John McGuinness, I'm not throwing it away, it's up in the loft, was cracked all at the back. So I could have it repaired, but I wanted a single seat unit for it. So last thing I'm going to do before I start turning the spanners and pulling this bike apart is to get it all nice and clean, start it up for the last time, spin it over, check she's all good. I want this to be my trophy bike that I'll pull out once a year for that special occasion, but it'll sit in the corner of my garage. My garage is a mess, by the way, and just be something I can look at, dream of, think of, use the workhorse that is the Fireblade. But I hope you enjoy it and I hope you learn something, and if you've got an SP1 or you're doing a restoration, chuck it in the comments. I'd love to have a little look and get some inspiration for myself. I think we can inspire each other, can't we, really? I take inspiration from a company called Stance Works. I don't know if anyone watches them. They're building a space-framed Ferrari F40. Oh, it was just my ultimate car. But he's taking ages on it. But there's a reason for it. I'm so impatient. I know I'm going to rush this. I know I might start it tomorrow and I'll be like, oh, I want to get it ready for summer. Which, you know, December now, you're talking 3-4 months, is a possibility. But why rush something that's great? Can it wait a year? Can it carry on over a year? Can I just take my time with it and do it perfectly? Maybe that's the aim. And I hope you'll follow me on that journey. And I'm bound to make loads of mistakes. A, I'm clumsy. B, I'm not the best mechanic in the world. But I like to do things myself. Even if I mess it up, I know the second time I'll probably get it right. thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment, and hopefully this will be a regular piece. I've been waiting for a Stance Works video for about a month now. It's well annoying. I hope I ain't going to keep you lot waiting that long, and I hope you enjoy.